Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode of the Russell Hobbs Show. We have a special guest. And this is the show where you learn about everything in the universe, everything that's cool, art, music, culture, and all the greatest people. And today we have Andrea Reich, who is sort of a powerhouse of creative energy. She does jewelry design. She has companies. She's an influencer. And she's just an awesome person that, I see her everywhere, like inescapably present. She has this presence. So Andrea, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Russell.
So good to have you.
Thank you.
So we want to talk, because what we do is we profile people that are very interesting and do beautiful projects and endeavors. And everybody wants to know more about people like that and how you get to be a person that's fruitful and productive and all. So where'd you grow up? And what was your life like when you were younger?
Well, I kind of grew up all over the place, which was challenging, but fun. And I'm glad for it because it made me the person that I am today. But I was born in Sacramento, California. And my dad, coming from a military family, liked to move around a lot. And he was an entrepreneur, so
whether they liked it or not, they made him move around a lot.
Well, yeah, when he was young, absolutely. So he was an entrepreneur, so he was always just doing some kind of different new business. And we moved all over the place, but mainly in California. But we lived in Italy, we lived in Wisconsin, we lived in Colorado, we lived in Lake Tahoe. Back to California, though, Long Beach, growing up for a little while, where I went to high school. Went to a private Christian high school, got kicked out, not for grades, but just for being myself, and they just didn't like that. I had great grades though. And then I went to the local high school in Long Beach, the local public school, because they had a really good kind of tag gifted program. Come to find out though, Snoop Dogg was in my class. And so was Cameron Diaz.
Uh-oh, you got kicked out of another school now.
No. That was a good school. It was Poly High School in Long Beach. Right. Halfway through that was ninth grade. Halfway through that, we moved back up to Sacramento, finished out my year there, and then I went to Pepperdine for college. And that was awesome. Loved it. It was amazing. Stayed in LA for quite a while and then came back, but moved to Dallas.
Okay, so let me pause you there, and we'll go back to what brought you to Dallas. But so can you tell us what you got kicked out of the private school for? Your grades were great. What'd you do?
This is so embarrassing.
Oh, come on.
I'm not sure I should tell, but yeah, I'll tell you what I did.
Okay.
So they were always getting on me for something, in that private school, private Christian school. But not the kind of Christian school that was like, loving arms around you, but more the kind of Christian school that was like always getting on you for something. Gave me demerits. They said I was wearing boys' jeans, which I wasn't, but they were just giving me detention for wearing boys' jeans.
So you were a fashion statement already, and you got in trouble because the school was so rigid with their rules.
Very much so. Yeah.
And you know what's funny? Is there, there's this thing called statute of limitations, right? Like you can't get in trouble for something you did after 7 years or whatever. Is there a thing that's like now we can go back and all change our past because of things that are happening now in our culture? Like you could never get in trouble for that, right? But you got in trouble for that. You should be able to go back in like this little time machine and change your whole life because there's no way you should have gotten in trouble for that.
No. No way.
But it's good though, because maybe it was cool that you got to go to school with Cameron Diaz and Snoop Dogg, right?
Right.
It was like a better thing in a way.
Right. I think now they would celebrate girls wearing boys' jeans, but hey.
I know. Isn't it funny how culture changes, and that's a good thing. Yeah. And but it's not fair though that we get in trouble for like being innovators, really.
Yeah.
You were sort of ahead of your time there.
They weren't even boys' jeans, though. Anyway.
Oh, right. So you were falsely accused. Okay. So before we go into like how you came to Dallas and all, a noteworthy couple of things. So your dad was an entrepreneur. So you kind of learned by example growing up to become an entrepreneur like that. That's very
Absolutely. My dad was a great example. Yes, he is just always doing something interesting, always doing his own thing, and always his own boss. So, yeah.
That's awesome. But he was also military, like when he was younger.
When he was growing up, yes. And when I was born, when I was born, he was in the military. We lived in Italy for a while when I was real young, and he was in the military then too.
Where was that in Italy exactly?
In Brindisi, Italy, and he was actually the DJ for the Air Force. Yeah,
that is so unique. I've never even heard that the Air Force had a DJ.
Of course, they had a DJ. And it was my dad.
Expound on that. Is that just for like the club every Friday night where they get R&R or something?
Well, not just that, but like when they had to wake up in the morning, there has to be a DJ on the radio, and so that was my dad.
Okay, yeah. So my brain, I used to think of DJ as this guy on the radio, and now when you say DJ, I think of a guy at a party.
All of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what was it like having like Snoop Dogg walking down the halls at your school?
Well, the way he looks now, kind of, it is the way everybody looked at that school. It was huge. The school was huge, and everybody kind of had pants on the ground and the hair and the whole thing. And yeah, it was a very different culture from what I was used to. So there was a lot of little Snoop Doggs running around there. Yeah.
I was about to say, you had culture shock going from a really rigid Christian private school to that high school, the public school.
Very much so. But, I was kind of taking it all in, and I just was very interested in all of it. Yeah.
So where did you start being artistically creating your own jewelry and such? Was it right in there in that time?
Well, I think I was drawing before I could ever even walk. So it's just something I was born with. It's just something I was born with. So I didn't actually start making jewelry until after my daughter was born. And that was only, she's 14 now. So I didn't come into my true calling until recently.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yes.
So
you were always sort of artistically inclined and drawing, and
yeah,
maybe you dressed artistically and all, but
very much
the actual jewelry was later.
Oh, very much so. Drawing and painting, had a clothing line, all that kind of stuff before I ever got into jewelry.
Beautiful. So I interrupted the timeline. Let me ask you this: what brought you to Dallas, or when did you come to Dallas?
I came to Dallas in 1995.
Okay.
I didn't want to come to Dallas, but I came.
So you were happy in LA.
I was happy in LA, but I will say I was going way too fast in LA. In my 20s, just having a great time, but maybe too good a time. My parents saw the whole thing going on, and they were like, we think you need to come to Dallas. They had moved to Dallas maybe 2 or 3 years before I did, with my sister, my younger sister. And they said, we think you need to come to Dallas. I'm like, no, I'm not coming to Dallas. They said, well, we think you need to come to Dallas. And they got me here. And when I first got here, there wasn't even a restaurant open past 8:00 on a Monday night. There was not much going on here. But when I came here, I made a decision to come, and I didn't even look back. I haven't even been back to LA since I left in 1995.
So it's another culture shock moment. You were living life in the fast lane in the West Coast.
Yep.
In mid-90s, you come to Dallas.
Yep.
And you're right, Dallas has changed a lot now in 25 years.
Oh, for sure. And now I know that all the people from LA are coming to Dallas. Yes. So I think I was way ahead of my time.
Yes. So what were you like in high school? Tell me who you were walking down the halls with Snoop Dogg. I asked you about him, but tell me about you as a high school woman, girl, chick.
Well, I was extremely introverted, believe it or not. Extremely. I went to 4 or 5 different high schools, so I was always the new kid. And extremely into my art, and I would kind of eat lunch every day with the art teacher. I loved my art teacher, and he was so good to me. He would just say, okay, here's the curriculum. The rest of the class, you're doing this curriculum. But he'd say, Andrea, you get to do whatever you want. We're going to give you get to do oil paintings. You get to paint. You just do your own thing. Whatever you want to do, you do your own thing. And so I would do my own thing, and all the other students in the class would always kind of crowd around me to see what I was doing. And I thought that was just great, you know. And so I would go eat lunch with him every day and work on my art. And I was kind of a real introvert, reading books, very, very into books and art, and just kind of kept to myself.
So you were really a prodigy as an artist at a young age. You were pumping out work all the time.
Kind of, yeah.
That's beautiful. So what did you study at Pepperdine?
I studied advertising and art. I have a degree in advertising.
Well, that's a very valuable thing to have. You know, when I went to college, I started out, I was in pre-med because I was like so into biology. It was the most interesting thing in the world. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to be a doctor, you know. So I went to North Texas and Denton, and I was in pre-med, and I was like the only one. We had this big frog. We pinned the frog down, and I could like surgically remove the frog's heart without any blood. And the frog was alive looking at me in his heart. And the professor walks around and he goes, you have the hands of a surgeon, but you don't study enough. And I was like, well, you know, I like the biology. So I was there, and then I changed to, I guess I just thought, you know, I don't want to be a doctor and go to the hospital every day. And chemistry sucked. I wasn't into it. So I changed to art. And but the reason I was digressing back and talking about me and getting there is I eventually ended up in business school. And marketing and the advertising, you know, economics and marketing and advertising was so interesting and kind of a natural for me. And then as I grew up and started having businesses and being entrepreneurial, that's the stuff I used all the time. And I'm sure you can relate to that, that things you learned in advertising and marketing are real life things that you probably do all the time now as an entrepreneur.
Well, you know, Dr. Russell, Rembrandt had the same roots. He was one of our, you know, most celebrated master artists, but he would go into where they were, to the doctors where they were learning to cut up cadavers, and he would just study that and study that and study that, because that's where he learned to draw the human figure. And if you go back and look at Rembrandt's works, you can see that he would even paint some of the you know, students cutting open the bodies, and fascinating.
I did not know that. And his work is just so amazing. I never became that good of a painter. I did some painting, and I was talking to a group yesterday, a project we're working on, and I started thinking, you know, I was into painting and I was into all kinds of different mediums of art. And then suddenly I opened a place, and I ended up kind of helping everyone else's career. And my art form became creating a place and sort of carving people's souls in a way and saying, oh, get rid of your mall shirt and make a painting and be who you are. I even went through a phase where I didn't want to wear a shirt if I didn't have a cool shirt. You know what I mean? So that's interesting you say that about the technical side of Rembrandt. You know, that's a beautiful thing that he studied to that extreme. Because a lot of art, and especially today, it's like just people just make a picture of what they want to see, and that's okay. But the more you study truth of the creation and what's really the foundation of form and things like that, then the better artist you can be.
Well, that's kind of like what P. Diddy did too. He made other artists. His art was to make other artists.
That's true, yeah. Interesting. So you were at Pepperdine in advertising, and then LA was, you know, fun and crazy, and then you ended up in Dallas. Mm-hmm. So would you, how did you, let's just say, how did you get in the arts and entertainment that you're in now? Like, how did you start your line?
My jewelry line? Well, after my daughter was born, Miriam, I had been working for my dad prior to that, doing advertising and marketing and communication stuff for his company. And I was home with my baby, and I thought, well, I think I'll get into painting again. And then I saw the baby crawling around, and I was like, turpentine and oil paint, and my couches are white, and the baby's crawling, and I'm like, I'm not sure this is going to work.
Painting can be messy, right?
Yeah, a little bit. So I thought, but I've got to have a creative outlet. I just have to. I've got to be doing something. But I saw one of those agates, those beautiful agate slices with the rings. It's just, I was so inspired. I was like, these stones are like God's art. Like, I just could not get it out of my head. I was obsessed. I would be at the traffic light and I'd be like, ruby, emerald, topaz. I'd be like,
beautiful. I love that.
I was hallucinating gemstones everywhere I went. I saw it everywhere I went. I just couldn't get it out of my head. I was up all night thinking about it, all day thinking about it. So I made a few pieces for friends, just for kind of fun, And next thing you know, a friend of mine, Barry Martin, she's a stylist. She said, hey, I'm doing this charity fashion show at Stanley Korshak, and I saw a piece that a mutual friend of ours was wearing. Do you have more that I could put on the models for this fashion show? And I think I'd been doing it maybe like 2 months. And I said, sure. So I gathered a bunch of pieces together, and she put them on the models, and people started asking, and it just became a full-time thing after that. And it just kind of has organically grown and grown and grown every single year. So
let me ask you, your early pieces, what did they look like? Tell me more specifically about your early pieces.
Oh, my early pieces, I had a bunch of stones. I had some wire. I didn't even have any chains. I made my own chains out of wire. I just made them. I had no professional tools or anything. I just made it with what I had, and just kind of, it was just sort of an innate thing. It just kind of like, yeah, of course I know how to do this. I just did it. And just, it kept growing. Like, the knowledge kept growing. The more I worked with it, just kept growing and growing. So,
isn't it cool? Sometimes if you just see something, it's just, and subconsciously you just start working, it just manifests. Right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
kind of what you're describing is you didn't necessarily struggle with how to do it. You just knew you could do it, and you just kind of did it, right? Like, you were actually wrapping wire to make chains.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, and probably, and I don't know that much about jewelry, in general, but that's probably the most greatest of all chains is a hand-woven chain, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was just hammering and wrapping and twisting and all kinds of stuff.
And so was it mostly like bracelets or cuffs? What were you doing first? Necklaces?
Necklaces.
Okay. So that was... Yeah.
Necklaces is still my thing. I mean, I do rings, I do bracelets, but necklaces really are my signature pieces.
Okay. So you were there at the home, and your friends were sort of your first clientele, whether you were giving them or selling them or whatever.
I was giving them to my friends, yeah.
Yeah. And so then what happened? How'd that progress?
My sister, Emily, God bless her, she said, you know what, we're going to have a show at my house. We're going to have a trunk show at my house. And she said, get a bunch of pieces together. I'm going to invite all my friends. And she did. And a bunch of her friends came. It was successful. And we just kind of said, let's go. So we were in business together for a little while, my sister and I. And then she got busy. She's got 4 kids. She's a teacher too. So she was very busy. And I kind of continued on by myself, after that. But God bless her. She really was an incredible encourager at the beginning.
That's so great. She got you going on your
really
own, and
did.
then kind of took back to her own priorities and all. That's what sisters are for, right?
Yeah.
That's really good. So, well, now, I mean, and you haven't even said the name brand of your company. I want you, Diadem is your company, and
Diadem Jewelry.
Yeah. So you now have grown to, like, where's your company now? Tell me tell me the progression of the early days there, and then maybe kind of give us a little timeline. This happened and that happened and all that.
Well, like I said, it's just grown. It has grown a little bit every year. It just keeps growing every year. it's such a blessing in so many ways. And one of the best ways, I think, is because I can give back to the community. And I can give back in ways that help a lot of charities and help a lot of causes. And that's one of my favorite parts about it. For example, I just was talking to Cattle Barons Ball yesterday, and they said, can you give us a piece over $1,000 because we're doing our catalog and we want you to be in the book. And I said, sure, absolutely. So just things like that is a great part of the business. Besides just, I love selling the pieces. It's great, but I love giving back too. And there's other ways that we give back. I don't want to talk about it all, but we have other ways to give back that are very, very fulfilling and rewarding. It's great to be able to make something with my hands that I feel that can help other people. Really, really fulfilling.
But it's fun because you get to make it. You get to have people be happy by owning it.
Yeah.
You get to make people look better by wearing it. And then all the fruit of that is to help other people with all various causes and such.
And then there's one thing that's the common thread throughout. And every single person that has bought one of my pieces comes back to me and they say one thing, always. They say, I get so many compliments.
Right.
And I think that's really awesome because you can't really buy that. That's just one thing, you cannot buy that. That's the one thing. So if you want compliments, buy a piece of diadem jewelry.
Perfect. So I have to ask you, the piece you're wearing right now, I presume that's one of your originals.
Yes.
Okay. Well, tell me about it. Like the title, what does it mean? Do you do that with each piece? Like title them like art and stuff?
Well, this is an eye piece. Each year I kind of do a theme. The last year was all eyes. The year before that was all lips. And then the year before that was all hands. But this last year I did a lot of eyes. So this is bronze, and this is beading. This is labradorite stone, and this stone is hematite. All my bronze pieces I have made by an artisan right near San Miguel Allende in Mexico. And I design a lot of different bronze pieces, all kinds of like amulets and kind of symbolic things. And he is literally an artisan. His work area is in the back of his house, and to get up there, you have to drive up this narrow little road. And there's like chickens and goats that scurry out of the way. It's like Indiana Jones when you're driving up there. And he is literally pouring molten bronze into a hole in the ground. He does sand casting, like old world style. So there's ashes everywhere, and it's just a crazy thing, but it's so cool. So every single piece is handmade, and everything is one of a kind. So
that's just beautiful and amazing. So you're like on the Jeep going up the road. You're standing on the wheel well, holding on with your Indiana Jones cap.
Yes, like literally.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. So I want to go back to what you said about when you first were inspired, you had the stones, and you said you would look into each stone, and you saw that as God's creation was so beautiful, like looking in, because everyone, doesn't even think about this maybe, but, each stone has grain and different things, and the proper words to describe it. And when you cut the stones, you section it and you can see it from different angles and all that kind of thing. So that sort of inspired you, really, was you wanted to showcase these stones.
The stones really spoke to me, and they still speak to me. When I see a stone, like they kind of tell me what they want to be. So I just let the stones decide what I make. They really do speak to me. I just look at them for a few minutes, and I'm like, yep, I know what it needs to be.
That's amazing. So that's a beautiful piece there. It really is.
Thank you.
It's because jewelry to me, I guess I'm particular. Everyone has their taste and their opinion of what looks good or what does not to them. It's subjective. But I like some boldness and subtlety sometimes. Sometimes things are just a bit like, wow, it's extravagant, and it's funny because people wear jewelry for different motivations. Some people may wear it for attention or shock value. Some people just love it and they kind of want to hide it or something, right? So to me, your stuff is very tasteful, and that piece is like amazing because it's bold and large, and it's like, it's out there, but it also kind of blends in. You know what I mean?
It's definitely statement jewelry. It's meant to be noticed. It's like you walk into a room and it's meant to be noticed. It's not like a tiny little, and I love tiny little pieces. They're great for an intimate coffee, talk or something, but these are bold pieces. They're meant to be seen and noticed. And, that's just my aesthetic. That's what I like. And, that's what I see.
Yeah, but they're tasteful. so tasteful. I think maybe it's a rare combination of your, tasteful artistry and you're doing some bold jewelry, where sometimes I see bold jewelry and it's not done in a tasteful, beautiful way. So it's not, I'm not really that into it, but you're able to walk that line, I think, where it's a lot of them bold and sometimes large, but they're still tasteful and really, aesthetically pleasing. I hope that's the right words. So what did you, like when you were young, like you're, say, 7-year-old young girl, what did you think, what did you dream your life was going to be like?
All I did when I was 7 years old was draw horses.
Okay.
All day and night. Yep. Just drawing horses.
So have you ever had a horse?
Well, this is so unfortunate. I ordered all these horse magazines. All I wanted was a horse. All I wanted to do was ride horses, draw horses. And then I went to go ride a horse and I was so allergic to horses and I still am, like terribly allergic. So I can't get near a horse, but I love them so much. I can't get near one. Even with shots, anything, I can't get near a horse.
That is a tragedy.
Isn't that ironic?
But it's ironic for sure. Speaking of horses, I don't watch every big horse race, but the one a couple of weeks ago, with the long shot, I just happened to be watching that, and seemed like the camera, the crew, and the set of the way they set up the shots, it was the most beautiful, coming down the home stretch, the passion of those horses. And you could see every muscle of the whole field of horses. Yeah. And the jockey was the most skillful at maneuvering through the pack. I can't even remember the name of the horse now. You probably do. But the long shot horse won. And that was the most beautiful horse race I've seen, I guess, in my whole life. Just the combination of they captured it so well, the long shot horse winning, and then they'd show the jockey like weaving, finessing through the crowd and passing all the other horses. Yeah. It was just amazing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It really is. And I think the horses like it. Okay. So if anybody's listening thinking, those guys are mean to the horses.
No.
I think those horses live to compete and be excellent and, beat the other horses. And that's a fun thing. What else are they going to do? Stand around in a field?
No, they don't like that. Horses absolutely love to have a purpose. And they love to work and they love to excel in whatever they do. Horses love it.
Yeah, my theory is that, I talk about God because, God's a real thing to me. God, I think he created dogs to be these perfect little companion partners. They're always there for you. I mean, dogs, the world's crazy about dogs. I don't have to sell anybody on that today, but, dogs they're just made like they are. And horses are, they'll help you plow your field or win a race or go into battle. They'll actually die in battle for the guy riding them. You know what I mean? And sometimes you think, oh no, they're forcing them to do that. But it's like, it seems to me they're beyond being forced to do it. It seems like sometimes they're created for that purpose to sort of do anything for their master in a way.
Noble
right?
animal.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. And dolphins are cool. Okay.
Yeah, they are.
They'll go and fight the sharks off to save a human. I mean, to me, that's evidence of of a creation with an intelligent design. I don't think that stuff all just happened.
Well, they're supposedly the only animal that has sex for pleasure.
The humans or the dolphins?
The dolphins.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Are we animals?
I get your point now. I get your point now. So dolphins for pleasure. Well, they have a big brain, so you may be onto something. So
supposedly.
Now cats, maybe they would represent the theory of evolution because they don't need us. They don't, but I like cats too. Okay. So anyway, we're off on animals. Do you have any animals, pets?
I love animals. I really love cats a lot too, but I'm just super allergic to so many animals. I'm allergic to almost every animal, so I can't really have any pets, much to my daughter's chagrin.
Have you tried a pet like hawk or parrot or something?
Birds? I would not have a bird as a pet, no.
Because they're supposed to be free and fly, right?
No, I just would never have a bird as a pet.
They're not real affectionate, I don't think.
They're too reptilian for me.
Okay, well, let's get back to your story. So your jewelry line does really well, and it's probably opened a lot of doors for you, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
Can you embellish that a little bit?
Well, I love putting jewelry on celebrities. I put jewelry on a few celebrities. Last night, I gave a piece of jewelry to Leon Bridges, and he is our star from Fort Worth, and I'm sure you know who he is, right? Yeah.
I do. In fact, Leon got his record deal out of my club because R.C. Williams is Erykah Badu's band director forever. So we had a thing called the Jam Session every Wednesday at the Profit Bar for like 15 years almost.
Wow.
I think it was 15 years, yeah. So, R.C. is just an awesome guy. And by the way, R.C.'s making music with Snoop Dogg right now all the time.
Oh, really?
So anyway, I'm plugging R.C. in the Jam Session. So every Wednesday night at the Profit Bar, we had the Jam Session. And R.C. would have all these Grammy players, like the best cats in town on every position. And before the main gig at night, there'd be an open mic. That's why it's called the Jam Session. So everybody could come through there and actually get up and do their thing and play their music with Grammy players. Well, Leon used to come all the time to the Jam Session, and Columbia met him right in that mix through RC and all that, and he got his deal.
Wow.
And the rest is history.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, just great people, and I'm so glad that so what kind of jewelry did you give Mr. Bridges?
I gave him a necklace with a beautiful Ethiopian cross and with hematite beads. A little bit like this, but a little bit bigger beads, a little bit more masculine, big beads, and then kind of a real interesting Ethiopian cross with a loop on it, and then some loopy kind of arms, and then a straight.
Sounds like a beautiful, bold, big piece. So
yeah, silver beads, and the Ethiopian cross was bronze, so really pretty.
So now you've got me interested in the names of the stones because you said these are hemotites.
Hematite, yeah.
Are those that okay, now I know this. Like in a cavern, you have the stalactites hanging down there holding on tight and the stalagmites coming up, right?
Yeah.
So why are those called hematites?
These are hematites. These are more of a metallic from a rock, more so than a crystal. A stalactite and a stalagmite are crystals. So that's more of like a quartz type of stone. This is more of something that you find in the middle of a rock. So, yeah.
The middle of the rock, like maybe inside of an iron or something?
Yeah, yes.
So, because see, I'm not very knowledgeable in this. What do you call the people that, there's geologists, but what are the ones that are specialists in stones?
GIA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like that. You must have learned so much over the years about the stones.
Yeah, yes. And one of the most fascinating things, I think, is in the book of Revelation chapter 21, talks about the New Jerusalem. When our heaven and earth that we live in now have passed away, there will be a New Jerusalem. a new city, perfect square it will be, and there will be walls on this new city, and there will be foundations on these walls, and each one will have 12 foundations made of gemstones. So I thought maybe diamonds really are forever.
Yeah, I've read that too in Revelation. And I've never delved so deeply into it as I need to. But it mentions sapphire and
agate,
and
sapphire, ruby. Labradorite is one of them. I mean, there's many. There's many. Well, there's 12 of them, but pearl, and then there's the pearly gates, right? So, it's all true, and it's fascinating. Emerald.
It's funny when you say that. It makes my mind think back to actually throughout the Bible, jewelry is a big thing.
Yeah.
The Jews were captive in Egypt as slaves, as we all know, because everybody out there has seen the Charlton Heston Moses movie.
Yeah.
And even if you hadn't read the book, right? So, the Jews, when they were delivered out, all the Egyptians gave them all their jewelry, right? And God ordained that as their provision, to go forth. And so can you imagine, and you maybe have studied, I went to some exhibits, but can you imagine the jewelry of that day, And it's funny because several tangents hit my mind, but, people think that we were like these dumb cavemen back there, and they didn't know anything. I really don't believe that. I think that, God created man from the dust, breathed life. There was Adam and Eve out of his side. And so there was, God created Adam male and female together and all. And I think he told him how to name the animals. If you look at biblical history, there was never really some people that didn't know much. I think they were actually very smart. And I think the Egyptians were super smart. I mean, if you built pyramids like that we still can't figure out, you probably did some really cool jewelry.
Oh, yeah.
So, the whole theory of like, oh, man was really stupid and now we're smart because we all have a device and we know what the Kardashians are doing. I don't think, even in fact, like I'll read books of things that were written like 200 years ago, or letters like from the Old West, where cowboys were like punching the cattle, punching the dogies on a cattle drive. And the letters they wrote were so eloquent and well written because everybody read back then. So what I was trying to get to, my point was, if you didn't have television and you didn't have social media and all the things we have now, and you were an Egyptian or a Jew back in those days, and your time was spent like making jewelry, growing your crops, surviving. But they had so much time to create the jewelry, to write, to paint, whatever their thing was. And I know they were just like amazing at it, right? And I'm going to let you talk again. But it's like, have you studied like throughout history? I mean, have you gone back to historical jewelry? Are you inspired somewhat by that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I'm inspired by the time that I spent before iPhones were created. I got a lot more done then.
Recent history, yes.
But yes, absolutely. I mean, I have books and books about all the things that were created before iPhones. But back in the ancient days, I mean, there's really nothing new under the sun. But inspiration comes from a lot of those things, and you just kind of reiterate those things over and over. But they're always fresh in a way, because if we haven't seen them for a while, then they look good again. It's like fashion kind of. So
no doubt. It's an interesting artistic dilemma you just painted there. Was there's nothing new, but then things come around again.
Yeah.
And the infinite possibility that you could do with a piece of metal or a stone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing holding you back, right?
Yeah. And then you mix it with you mix the old with the new and it looks fresh again, so it's always fun to play around with.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because like I'll go to Europe and look at the things in the museums and it's so amazing, or it's like you think, how did those people back there make this stuff? But I think I've just learned over the years observing that they had a lot of time, they had a lot of skill. It was passed down through generations, and they were smart.
Oh yeah. Well, they're yes.
So I mentioned the Kardashians. Have you sold them any jewelry yet?
No, I actually haven't met any of them yet, but I like them all very much.
Yeah, I don't know them I don't watch the show. I don't know. I just know they're like the biggest name in the universe right now. Right?
Yeah, I actually really I watch them. I like them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are you most passionate about now in your life today?
Oh gosh, you know what? I kind of feel like everything is converging. Everything is converging. It used to be kind of like, oh, this is happening and this is not, and this is happening and this is not, and I'm trying to get. But now I feel like all the things that I've kind of. I write a lot of poetry too, so I feel like the poetry that I write, and the jewelry that I make, and the art that I make, because I still paint too. I paint. I do paintings, and I paint on jackets. I paint on handbags. I do all kinds of artistic things, and I feel like sometimes my whole life is just an art thing. So I kind of feel like at this point it is all converging, and it feels really good. It feels like kind of a celebration all coming together. So I feel like something is happening. And it's all leading to something. And I don't know what yet.
I think what I hear you saying is that you are inspired and you're like I used to call it a convicted artist. There's this conviction, you've got to make this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's in multi-medium now. And so you feel like there's a coming together of all these different things inside you to maybe. Have you done gallery openings before?
I have not had a gallery opening of my art, although I have had my art in gallery openings before, but not just my art.
Okay, so maybe it was a painter and your jewelry was a complementary part of the exhibit.
I've had my photographs in gallery before.
Oh, photos too.
Uh-huh.
So, okay.
Actually in Deep Ellum years ago. And I think I've had a few pieces of art in galleries before, but
it sounds to me you're birthing something. It sounds to me you're on the verge of maybe your own expose.
Could be.
Where you could have multi-medium, Andrea Reich.
Could be. And I actually think social media is a big part of it too. Like I love Instagram. I love all the opportunities we have through Instagram. I love all the new social media. I think it's so much fun and it's so creative, and we can do all kinds of fun things with it.
Well, yeah, social media gets a bad rap, but I mean, it's a revolution.
It's
right?
Awesome.
I mean, in the histories of freedom, we have the slaves were freed, okay, and then Prince put all the record companies, to bed when he's like, no, I'm not going to be doing that anymore. I'm going to make my own thing, right? He showed everybody how to have their independent music. And then social media, the people could no longer be controlled by the few gatekeepers of radio and TV and movies and stuff. Now there's this universe that we can all connect easily, and you can get your message out pretty much free.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yes. I tell my sons, this is a moment in time that you can do just pretty much anything you want to do. If you have an idea or a brand or a piece of art or any kind of entrepreneurial thing, you have access to the whole world right there, right now.
That's right.
So has your daughter, is she interested in learning your craft, your art?
Well, the diadem will be hers someday. And
excuse me, but I say craft in a way like not the arts and crafts fair, but like an actress. Okay, your craft.
Oh well, yes. She does want to. She loves it. By the way, she does love theater and all that kind of stuff. My great great aunt was an Oscar-winning actress. Silent film actress. Mary Pickford was her name, and they called her America's sweetheart. So she actually started United Artists with Charlie Chaplin and her husband, Douglas Fairbanks. She was an amazing woman, an absolute pioneer in Hollywood. So anyway, that being said.
That's beautiful. I mean, Charlie Chaplin, I don't want to jump off on that, but he's one of the most amazing creative people ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just for a second, he was making movies with his own money. When you see the movie of Charlie as Hitler, I used to just see him like not pay much attention. Charlie spent his own money making movies about Hitler and putting them in the theaters to warn Americans of what was going on in Europe before we were even helping the Jews in Europe. Charlie was like a campaigner for the cause to help get America to go help World War II and stop the Nazi takeover.
Well, he was definitely a brilliant guy.
Yes, and passionate about that cause to help his people. So that's your great.
My great aunt. Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So back to your daughter. She loves the arts then?
She loves the arts. She's a talented artist. She's a talented singer, which I'm not. And
we're going to get you to sing in a minute.
No. You can get her on. You can get her to come on and sing. But my whole idea was that Diadem would be hers someday, and hopefully she'll improve on it, and then she could pass it on to her daughter someday, or hopefully she'll have a daughter, maybe son or whatever. But I would hope that they would just keep passing it down, and each generation would make it better. But it's always something that can get them involved in their community and get them to give back, and something that can be a creative outlet for them in some way, shape, or form. So that's kind of that's my idea behind the whole thing too. So
that's beautiful. There's nothing better than being able to have a generational momentum that you pass down.
Yes, like, this is yours. You're going to thank me someday. Just trust me. Just take it and do something good with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just quickly before we get to the next point was, it's funny because I've been entrepreneurial, and I moved into Deep Ellum when it was a ghost town and started a gallery and showing these convicted, edgy artists and bands playing, and it kind of blew up, and the scene blew up, and I was doing all that. And now my sons, I've been in doing concerts for 37 years and other things. And so now I don't necessarily have a business for my sons to take over, because I don't really want them to be, venue owners or scene creators, or but I'm happy for you that your daughter loves what you do and probably will take it over and run with it. So I don't know, maybe I need to start a new venture that I can let my sons take over, like with them now or something. Just sort of thinking out loud here. So here's a question that I ask every guest, because, time is like a vapor, and we've had a great time, and you've shared so much beautiful truth and knowledge, and but we can't go on forever. So here's the question I ask everybody towards the end of the show. What do you think about God? And tell us what he's like.
Well, God is the creator of all things. I know that because he made me a creator too. And God is also, God made me, and he saved me. And though I am nothing, really a speck of dust in the whole scope of everything, I am something to God, and to think that I would be his treasure and he would be my treasure is truly significant and amazing to me. That is just is something I hold in awe.
I love that you made it so intimate between you and God. I mean, I ask you a big open question, and everyone answers in different ways. But you brought it in a very humble way. You brought it right back to that you're close with him, I can tell. And so, one thing I've learned, like I wasn't grown up in a religious way or anything. I was very ignorant and kind of doing my own thing and created a scene. I was trying to kind of create a world I could dig it, because I didn't dig the modern mall world, materialism. So I kind of created this edgy place. And then I was interrupted, God came to me. He sent my janitor to win me over to him. And, it just seems like what I've learned is that when I was so excited because I met God, I met the resurrected Christ in spirit. He's there. Now he's in me, right? And it's undeniable. It's not faith to me anymore. It's beyond belief or faith. It's just a fact. But I learned, and I was shocked, that people mostly don't really want to be interested in God or talk about God or whatever because of, religious beliefs and upbringings and different church and religious systems have made a lot of people where they don't really want to deal with it or talk about the question, right? Do you find that to be?
I do find that some people don't want to talk about it because I think they're not ready to confront themselves yet.
Or have anybody else confront themselves, which we really shouldn't do. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying it's kind of a timing thing a lot of times.
It's hard to confront yourself.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that people don't want to confront about themselves. They'd rather live in darkness than in light for the most part if they're not ready.
Yeah, I've read that in John chapter 1.
Yeah.
The darkness doesn't want the light because it loves the darkness. So I think what I'm kind of getting over to was, if everybody in the world knew the true character of God, then everybody'd want to be with him and play with him,
Of course.
But I think we're in this situation where there's so much false representation and deception and just preconceived notions that keep people away from even opening the seeking up, because everybody's already made their conclusion. Well, God's mad at me. God's no fun. God's mean. I feel, I can't talk or I can't go around God. I want to be in darkness because light is not fun or nice or whatever, but it couldn't be further from the truth. I've actually really experienced personally that, he's very accepting and gentle and patient and, just everything amazing. And so puts up with me and all of us for now,
The grace is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's the word, isn't it? Grace. Yeah, I need it. Well, I want to say you're a tender soul and you exude his grace. And, your art's beautiful. We've got a few more minutes, but so any closing comments, questions, or statements?
Well, I just want to say that I'm just honored that you would have me on your show. Thank you so much. Thank you all for listening and watching. And I hope to see a piece of diadem jewelry on all of you in the future. And I think you need one too, Russell.
I've used to wear jewelry more. I'm not so much a jewelry guy. I guess I've just gotten in the habit of wearing nothing, But
you just
I
need
love
a little
it.
Gemstone bracelet or something.
Well, we were talking about some bracelets.
Just see what we're gonna. We'll have to
there's a
get
movement.
something on you.
I wouldn't mind it. I have some really cool. I have my great grandfather escaped from Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution.
Wow.
Maxov Davagovich. His name's
Really?
really hard to say. I had to practice saying it before I say it, on TV. But so I have that. I have necklaces I've attained over the years, and I used to go to trips in Europe and buy jewelry, and I've got them all. But I got in this thing of I just don't wake up and put jewelry on. I'm just that kind of simple man guy. And but no, if I had one of your pieces, custom made just for me from God through you, I'd probably, I'd wear it.
I think we have to get something on you.
Well, you're so nice for saying that. I don't do, it must be grace. But no, your stuff's just beautiful. And, I know you work with a lot of good causes, and you're just, a fabulous human being. It's not really the best word, fabulous, but you're just an authentic and beautiful human being. And so just keep on trucking, doing what you're doing.
As are you. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks. And so, it's always sad when the show comes to an end with such a great guest. And Andrea, you've been so fun and inspiring. So thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time. Oh, one more thing. I wrote a book, and it's on Amazon and all that. And it was like years of seeking and questioning, and, even before I ever met God. And then after I met God, I had so many more questions. Like, why did you put a man and a woman and a snake in a garden and say, don't eat this, and things like that? And why is there suffering if you're such a great God and you're omnipotent and omniscient and omnipotent and all this? Why are you letting all these bad things happen? So this book is me over years, praying and being, angry with God and being real and, seeking. I've always been a seeker, and I think I have some answers. And it's about why things happen. And there are lessons in this theme park that the creation is really a theme park that God teaches us through. Just like Andrea's stones, that you were drawn into each of those stones is uniquely made like a snowflake, not to be cliche, but there's no way that it's like that there's just all happened accidentally. Each one of those stones is special to you because they are special. And the creation is infinitely manifold, mysteriously made in depths of revelation if we just look and seek and humble ourselves and look into it. So, it's inspiring. It really is. And I'm so glad that you honor God with your art the way you do. And you've really sort of kind of become one with the creation that he made to manifest it and put it on people, It's very cool. So thank you again, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye-bye.